Hi everybody, I'm Chef Nick, and welcome to Nick Ruins Ethnic Food, the episodes where I cook foods from outside of my own culinary tradition. I try to do my very best in translating them and then reproducing them in a authentic-ish manner to not upset anybody, but still end up with something tasty. Today we are going to be making Detroit-inspired pizza. I don't have a motor pan to cook it in, so it'll be round instead of square. And then as a side dish, we are going to be making some pan-style breadsticks to go with that. So first off, we got to make some dough. Right, first things first. When we're making pizza dough, when we're making most doughs, what we're going to want to do is we're going to start with a sponge. So we got here 1 cup of flour, and to that, we are going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. If you got a sourdough starter, you can start with that. You know your starter, you know your percentages better than I do, so don't be afraid to rock and roll. Give it a shot. All right, we got our flour, we got our dry yeast. Nice and easy sponge. 1 1/3 cup of warm-ish water. If you got 110-degree water coming out of your tap, great. If not, no big deal. You can always throw it in the microwave for just about 30 seconds just to take the chill off. Get it up so it's, warm to the touch. Now, for my pizzas, I like a real loose sponge. I want to get all my water in there right away. We're just going to let this thing rock and roll. So all the liquid for the entire dough is going to be in this sponge, kind of beat the lumps out. Now, by having a nice loose sponge like this, what we are going to end up getting is one that doesn't rise too much, which is great. I don't want it to overflow in this bowl. What I do want, though, is that yeast to have a lot of liquid to rehydrate itself in, get it to rock and roll. You can stick this in a warm place overnight. It'd be great. You can throw it in the oven with the just the light on. Also good. If your oven's got a proof setting, even better. Especially in these cold Midwestern winters, making pizza dough in a cold kitchen is a little hard to do. All right, we'll put that off to the side. We'll let that start bubbling away. Now I've got 2 1/2 cups of flour. Pizza dough, for whatever reason, is about the only recipe I don't use weights on. Just couldn't tell you why. Every time I've tried to translate it, just doesn't come quite the way I want it to be. All right, so this is 2 1/2 cups of flour. Gonna hit it with a level tablespoon of kosher salt, level tablespoon of white salt, or sorry, not white salt, white sugar, and then a little pro tip. I'm gonna hit it with 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Oh. Doesn't have to be fancy olive oil. Remember, it's going in the pizza dough, and we'll be covering this thing in cheese and sausage and pepperoni in a few minutes here. Well, a few hours here. I'm going to let that just fill up those eyeballs. There we go. That's going to rock and roll. That'll be ready for us to add to our sponge when our sponge is ready to go. Next up, we will be doing the sausage. All right, now we're going to make some Italian sausage for our pizzas. It's okay to buy store-bought. You can go to the butcher. You can make your own. We'll get around to making our own sausages one of these days. But first off, can you put raw sausage on a pizza? The answer is yes. Do I like to? No. I like knowing everything on my pizza is going on fully cooked, ready to eat. Yeah, sure, the pizza cook might start snacking on it, but, it's easy enough to, guarantee for food safety reasons that everything is safe to eat before it goes on. And I just like to make, little teaspoon-sized balls, give them a little pat. I don't want to make meatballs. Meatballs will roll off my pizza. So I'm just going to put these on a lined baking sheet. Once I'm done here, I'm going to be throwing them in a 350-degree oven for 15 to 20 minutes, just until they're cooked through. I don't want to render all the fat out of them. I just want to make sure that they are ready to go. All right, let's get these in the oven. Now it's time for cheese. Detroit-style pizza, you got to have brick cheese. I'm from Wisconsin, so Widmer Specialty Brick. This is the good stuff. I could talk about brick cheese and how cool it is for like 30 minutes. Don't get me started. So brick cheese is basically a relative of cheddar. It's great cheese, phenomenal for pizza. Belongs on every pizza, not just Detroit style. I'm going to have 8 ounces of that, and I'm going to have 4 ounces of a nice lightly smoked provolone. Brand doesn't really matter on that one. Smoked provolone, smoked provolone. I'm going to run that through the box grater. We want some real nice feather shreds. Feather shreds are going to be, best for us. They're going to give us some good coverage on the pizza. But at the same time, they're not going to have, like the extra fancy cheese, the extra fancy shred. It's just too fine. It doesn't give you enough coverage. And for pizza especially, I love shredding my own cheese for this thing. Almost all the packaged shredded cheeses are going to have either a little bit of cellulose or some cornstarch mixed in there. And what that is going to do is it prevents it from sticking together in the bag, but it's also kind of adding an unnecessary binding agent when you start cooking these things. Right, let's go ahead and check on those sausages. Alright, these guys are looking good. Fully cooked, but not too dark. Not all the fat is rendered out of them. We just want to make sure they're safe to eat. They're going to pick up more color once they're on the pizza. So we'll just get these up off and out of the grease. Not a whole lot of grease on these bad boys. Into a bowl to kind of cool down. And we're actually only going to be using about half of these. The other half we're going to go in a Ziploc baggie for the next time the family insists on pizza. So it's been a couple 2-3 hours. We're back. Our sponge, nice and spongy, real nice and loose. A lot of bubbles, and we are starting to get some nice ropiness from some gluten development in there. Going to knock a little bit of that air out of there. I'm going to take our pre-measured dry goods. With our olive oil, obviously. We're going to mix that in there. So, can I do this in the KitchenAid mixer? Absolutely. Do I like doing it by hand? Also, absolutely. Alright, so I'm just going to get this incorporated here in the bowl, and then I will knead it by hand for a few minutes to make sure the gluten is developed properly. And unlike most breads, with my pizza dough, I don't do a bulk ferment on it. I'm going to let it rest for a few minutes, let the gluten relax, and then it will be portioned and molded into our pre-greased cast iron pan and our rectangular pan. Just want to mix this until it gets a bit shaggy and I can turn it out on the table and get working on it. So you'll see here I've kneaded my dough for about 3 to 5 minutes. Still kind of tacky, little tacky, but bounces back, developed the gluten well. All right, and as I said earlier, I'm not going to bulk ferment this, so I'm going to take about a third of this dough. This is going to become my breadsticks for later on. And then this guy here is going to be our Detroit-inspired pizza. All right, I'm going to round them out just a little bit. You know, the best way to start with a round pizza is to start with a round piece of dough. Let that relax. Because I'm making square breadcrumbs. I'm going to start with a square piece of dough. We're going to let that rest for just a few minutes. All right, our doughs have been rested for about 10-15 minutes now. The gluten is nice and relaxed. We're going to stretch out our breadstick pan first, and then we'll get to work on stretching out that round pizza dough. So this dough is pretty similar in construction to a focaccia, so it's going to be a bit sticky. That's okay. That's why we're getting into a greased pan, and then they should crisp up real nice. Our greased pans are going to crisp up that outside, leave us a nice, fluffy, airy, chewy crust in the middle. Right. Nine by 9 pan. Get her molded, get her pretty even. She's going to go in the oven to proof. All right. Big old cast iron pan, well buttered. Now we're going to stretch out our big dough. Now it's not going to need a ton of stretching. As you'll see, we don't have a ton of distance to go. We just want to make sure we get nice even crust all the way across the bottom. Now, this being a Detroit-style pizza, the cheese is going to go all the way to the outside edge. So what we don't need to worry about is making sure we've got a nice chewy crust around the outside. This isn't a deep dish Chicago style. We're not making a bread casserole. All right, so we just want nice, even thickness on our dough all the way around. And then we can just drape her on in there. There we go. Now what we're going to do is while these sit in the oven in proof with a light on, or if you have a proof setting on your oven, we're going to let that rock and roll for about an hour. Then we're going to come back, we're going to sauce them. Pay attention. We're going to sauce them. We are going to then bake them. And then we'll be good to go. We'll have some pizza tonight. We'll have some delicious breadsticks. But while these are resting, I'm going to walk the dog. All right. It's been an hour. The dog's been walked. Though she still wants to be outside. All right. So we are going to sauce up and get our pizzas ready to go. Now remember, the Detroit-style pizza, sauce goes on at the end. I just happen to have this delicious jar of garlic oil hanging out in the fridge for just such an occasion. Just a nice way to kind of set a barrier up on your bread, or on your dough, I should say, so that your toppings don't make it soggy. Pizzas are always a constant balancing act between moisture and toppings. Everyone thinks you want more. More is not necessarily better. More is just more. And adding more toppings means adding more moisture. And I don't know about you, but I don't really like a soggy pizza. Now this is a really dense, bready pizza. But, we still want a crispy bottom. We want a crunchy top. All right, so with the Detroit-style pizza, I got some nice sandwich sliced pepperoni here. And we're going to go almost all the way out to the edge. Nice thin slices, so you'll be able to pull it apart with your teeth if you decide to pick the sucker up and mow on it. Otherwise, you can always fork and knife it. This is a pretty hearty pizza. No one's going to judge you too hard for hitting this thing with a fork. All right, and there we go, full coverage. Now, as you saw me before, shredded up that cheese. Detroit-style pizza. Part of the charm is that the cheese goes all the way to the outside edge of the crust, and that is going to give you nice, crunchy, cheesy bits around the outside. You know, that's kind of my favorite part about this thing. And as I'm sprinkling, you know, just get that cheese in there, get good coverage. Shredded cheese will, you know, it'll melt, it'll cover in any gaps. We want a pretty even keel before we go. Sausages from before. These are I'm going to put on top of the cheese. A little easier to see where they are. You know, time your bites appropriately. Also, as they cook, they'll give us a little bit more color on them. That'll render some of the fats out, and then down into the bread. So, talking about toppings, when it comes to pizzas, I want every flavor in every slice, but I don't need every flavor in every bite. You know, this isn't a Ben and Jerry's ice cream situation. All right, so there we go. Toppings are on. Little pinch, little sprinkle, Italian seasoning blend, just, you know, oregano, thyme, basil, sorry, no thyme, oregano, basil, and a little bit of marjoram. All right, so I got the olive oil or garlic oil on the breadsticks as well. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of this dehydrated cheese powder. Super savory, just absolutely loaded with umami. Speaking of umami and a little bit of cheese on our breadsticks, going to bring in the Parmesan Reggiano, you know, the good stuff. Just a sprinkle, because I mean, you know, it's not cheesy bread, but we want that flavor on there, and that's actually going to help us crust up real nice. This will brown in the oven, and then again, just a little sprinkle of that Italian seasoning. All right, that's good. Gonna let these sit while we preheat the oven. I have a pizza stone in the oven. That's going to help me make sure I get the bottom crisp on this bad boy here. We're going to be cooking at 400 degrees. And obviously the pizza is going to take a lot longer than the breadsticks. So we'll start them both at the same time. We'll let the breadsticks come out first. That way we can get them sliced. Okay, here we go. These guys are going into the oven right now. We're going to be doing 400 degrees and setting our timer for 20 minutes. All right, 20 minutes. That'll give us enough time to get those breadsticks done. Then we'll want to check on our pizza. Timer just went off. Let's check on our cheesy bread, or our garlic bread down here. Beautiful, look at that color. Golden brown and delicious. All right. Pre-greased that pan, slid right on out of there. Golden brown on top, soft on the bottom. Now, little tough on top, little extra garlic butter or garlic oil. These things are not supposed to be healthy. Good for you, but not healthy. The timer's going off now, which means it's time to add the final step on our Detroit-style pizza. One of my favorite things about Detroit-style pizza, it's got the sauce on top. That means we get a couple of nice little dollops of homemade spaghetti sauce or pizza sauce right on top here. We'll get around to this one of these days, but I'm not going to bury it like you would with a Chicago deep dish. Just a little drizzle, give you a little change of flavor and texture as we're going along. Back in the oven for two more minutes. Sitting on that pizza stone. Can't wait to bite into this thing. I've been thinking about it all day. Moment of truth. Let's see what we've got. Oh, baby. That'll most certainly do. Got that crispy cheese all the way around the outside. Nice and loose. Let's get her out the pan and onto the board. Can't ask for better than that. Crunchy cheese all the way around the outside. Crispy bottom. Let's take a pop, huh? What do we got here? Nice doughy pizza. Nice doughy pizza, big bubbles from that focaccia base. We got some color and some rendering on those sausages. It's hot as heck, but I can't wait. Oh, so hot, so good. Now it's time for a beer, some pizza, a couple of breadsticks. Thanks for watching.